Okay, I think we're ready. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our daily success webinar. So good to see you guys on here today. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us on this beautiful day. For those of you, there we go. For those of you that are brand new, starting a little bit here. For those of you brand new, we do these webinars Monday through Friday at the same exact time. So try to be on here every day if you possibly can. It only takes one idea, just one simple idea to change your life. And you never know when you may get that idea. So try to be in here as often as you possibly can. All right, so let's get right into it. For those of you that were on here yesterday, you know that I shared a story with you from David Schwartz's book, The Magic of Thinking Big, one of my favorite books of all time. And actually, this book is extremely popular by successful people. This is one of the more popular books out there, just like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And so I highly recommend this book. For those of you that don't have it, well, there you go. There's another book recommendation, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. This book was around several decades ago. I think 50s, 60s, 70s, right in that time frame. But the principles taught in there are everlasting. So no matter how old it is, just like Think and Grow Rich. The principles are evergreen. They just, they go on forever. They never change. So I shared a story with you guys yesterday about a gentleman who finally reached a boiling point in his life where enough was enough. He was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he was tired of living a mediocre life. And he was tired of settling. And he realized that he had become very content and complacent with his lot in life. And all these people around him, friends, even a brother-in-law, had excelled and he hadn't. And he was just, tired of just merely surviving. And he was doing okay, but wasn't able to do a lot of things that he wanted to do. And he knew that he was letting his family down. So he finally, on a trip, one night, it just hit him and he made a shift in his mindset. And he did a few key things, and he was going for a job interview the next day and ended up asking, after this revelation, ended up asking for about 4 to 5 times more than what he initially was going to ask for the job, and he got it. And it's amazing. Think about it. Like, I think he was going to ask $750. Now, this, again, is decades ago, so you got to keep that in mind. But he was going to ask $750. I'm assuming that was a monthly salary. He ended up asking for $3,500 a month, 4 to 5 times more, and he got it. And you can imagine, where would his life be if he would have stuck with his original thought? But because he wasn't afraid to ask for more after this revelation, he got it, and his life completely changed from that point on. So I've read countless stories like this over the years where individuals had been struggling with mediocrity and they'd been settling, and something just, clicked inside their head. Something just triggered, and all of a sudden they made this mental shift and their whole life completely changed. And I'm sure you all have read similar stories or witnessed several experiences. Maybe some of you have experienced that in your own life where, for years or maybe most of your life, you're just kind of, trotting along and, life is good, but it's not great. You're able to survive, but you're not necessarily succeeding, at least succeeding at the level that you want or able to do the things you want. And then finally, something just inside you just, like a switch, just gets flipped and everything changes from that moment on. You just make a decision. I know that's happened to me, and I'm sure some of you have experienced that, but I've read many stories over the years where that happened. Zig Ziglar shares a story similar to this. He talks about a couple of gentlemen that went to work for the railroad. It's actually a true story. And again, this was a long time ago. So again, take this into account. But, so there's a couple of gentlemen, a couple of friends that went to work for the railroad. And they started out in the same job, same pay. Eventually, they ended up going down different paths within the same company, but they ended up separating. And after quite some time, one gentleman was still out working on the railroad and the other one wasn't. So it's an interesting story because one day, one of the friends is out working in the hot sun, sweating, dirty, and helping to build the railroad. Again, like I said, this is a long, long time ago, but helping to build the railroad. And all of a sudden, there was all this commotion. Everybody's getting excited because the president of the railroad was coming down the track and in this beautiful, locomotive. And they were all excited to meet him. This was a big, big deal. And he was coming out to inspect what they were doing and to meet the employees and maybe offer some words of inspiration. Anyway, so all these gentlemen out working on the railroad in the hot sun were getting all excited, and they all, dropped their tools and, ran down the railroad to, meet the president. And one of the gentlemen just, kept working. Well, his buddy next to him says, "Hey, aren't you going to come meet the president?" And the gentleman says, "I've already met him." And the guy's like, "What do you mean you've already met him?" He's like, "Yeah, I've already met the president of the railroad." He's like, "You met the president of the railroad?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "As a matter of fact, I know him." And the gentleman became even more astonished. He's like, "You know the president of the railroad?" "Yeah." Like, "Yeah, we're friends." And his buddy next to him is like, he just can't believe this. He's like, "You're friends with the railroad?" And the guy said, "Well, yeah." I said, how did you become friends with the railroad?" He's like, "We've been friends for a very long time." He says, "We actually started out working for the railroad at the same time. We both started out together. We were friends before we started working here." And at this point, his buddy is just flabbergasted. He's like, "Let me get this straight. So you've been friends with the railroad before you came to work for the railroad. You both started out doing the same thing, same jobs, and yet he's the president of the railroad and you're still out here working on the track." He's like, "How did that happen? How did he become the president of the railroad? And how come you're still out here working on the tracks?" And at this point, the guy, pretty solemn and sober, he said, "Well, we both started out working for the railroad at the same time, doing the same job." He said, "But when I started working out for the railroad, I came to work for the railroad for a wage. My friend, he came to work for the railroad to work for the railroad." And basically what he was implying is their thoughts and their goals and their objectives, even though they started in the same place, same job, same everything, they ended up in two completely different positions within the company, all because of one simple thing, their thoughts. One gentleman went to work just for the money. The other gentleman went to work, and his whole goal and objective was to give everything he had to the railroad because he wanted to build a career. He wanted to become somebody important. He wanted to become a leader within the organization. He didn't just go to work just to get his money and then leave. He went there to actually help build the company, to go the extra mile, okay, to spend extra time, to work extra hard, to do the things that all the other workers were not willing to do or wouldn't do, so that he could progress and climb and become a manager and a supervisor and a leader and an executive with the company. Two completely different thought processes, two completely different objectives and goals, and therefore two completely different jobs within the same company. Isn't that interesting? Do you think the president of the railroad, do you think he was any smarter than the other guy? Absolutely not. Do you think he's more talented? No. Do you think he had better education or better background, better upbringing, better any of that stuff? Probably not. Probably didn't really have anything better, any more resources, any more advantages than his friend. The only difference was in their thinking. That was it. And I'm sure many of you have seen similar stories or examples. A lot of CEOs and executives for major corporations out there today started out on the ground floor. They didn't start out as executives. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, right? But how many stories have you read, or how many situations have you seen where somebody is very wealthy and successful, leading a major corporation or company, their CEO or some executive, and they started out like everybody else. They started out in the mailroom. They started out cleaning bathrooms. They started out on the ground floor, and they just worked their way up. When everybody else within that company stayed stagnant or progressed very little, because their whole goal was, I'm here to make money, and that's it. I'm just going to do the bare minimum for my company, and then I'm going to go home. They have a pretty negative or bad attitude about their job or their company. They don't want to go the extra mile. They don't want to put in any extra effort. They're not there to help build the company, the organization, and help to grow something bigger than themselves. They're just there to collect a check. But you get those few individuals that their thinking is much, much bigger. They go the extra mile. They want to help build the organization. They want the company to be successful, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. Do you think the executives and the company, the individuals in the company, their bosses, their superiors, their supervisors see that? Absolutely. They can see the difference. They notice the individuals, most companies anyway, I should say. But most companies out there, most leaders, most supervisors, bosses, and executives, they'll notice those individuals that are going the extra mile, that are really there for the company, not just for a check. They're there for the company. And eventually they'll become the bosses, the supervisors, the executives, and in some cases, even the CEOs. And they start out just like everybody else. It's all in your thinking. It's all in your thinking. Remember, I shared with you yesterday, I always love what Tony Robbins said. He said, life will give you whatever you ask of it. The problem is most people, they're only asking for what they think they deserve. And unfortunately, most people don't think they deserve very much. They don't think they deserve very much. And so because of that, that's what they end up with. I guarantee you, if you changed your thinking, if you started thinking bigger, if you started dreaming bigger, if you set bigger goals, I guarantee you, your life would change faster than you realize. Guaranteed. And I can say that again after coaching people for over 20 years. And, the number one thing that I've studied for 20, 25 years, pretty much ever since I dropped out of college and started my first business, the number one thing that I've studied is, human psychology and mindset and success principles and, self-help, personal development. And I can tell you, I've seen it time and time again, individuals, books that I've read or mentors that I've learned from who are struggling like crazy, like a lot of people out there. But the minute that switch flipped inside their head, the minute they made up their mind that they were no longer going to settle for less than what they could be, when they realized, and they didn't know how, but then when they realized that they could be, do, and have more in life, that they didn't just have to settle for down here. with mediocrity. Just because maybe your parents, grandparents, whatever your background, maybe, that's, kind of the family you grew up in, maybe not, but maybe it has been. Sometimes we think, well, we fall into the trap that, that's been my great grandparents, my parents. And so sometimes we don't rise above because we just kind of settle for our associations, our family and friends, right? This is why they say that the people you associate with most determine your income and lifestyle more than anything else. And that includes your family. And so, unfortunately, most people don't think they deserve more. They're afraid to think big. But I'm telling you right now, the minute you make up your mind and you make a decision and you say, you know what, hell or high water, do or die, I don't care what it takes. Okay, I deserve more. I deserve to be, do, and have more in life. And you start thinking bigger, you start dreaming bigger, you'll be amazed at what will come into your existence. It's almost like God is waiting for you to make up your mind. Like he's waiting for you to make up your mind and finally make a decision, a true decision. Again, a decision, the Latin root meaning is to cut off all other possibilities. It's like there's no escape route. There's no plan B. There's no, you burn your ships, you burn your bridges. Like, this is it. It's like, that's a true decision. It's like God is waiting for you to make a true decision, a true commitment that you're ready to be, do, and have more, and stop settling. Stop settling for mediocrity. Stop being content. Stop just going through life doing the bare minimum and take a more active role in improving your life, your circumstances, and everything in your life. The minute you make that decision, you'll be amazed what God will bring into your existence to help make it possible. We're going to talk more about this week. We're going to talk about a few things on how you can make that shift in your head and stop thinking small and start thinking bigger. It all comes back to your thinking. It's really that simple. Most people overthink and overcomplicate this. But just like the gentleman in the story I shared with you yesterday, here's one example, and then we're going to finish up here. Let's say, for example, you're making, $30,000 a year, and you're like, that's it. I'm worth way more than 30,000 a year. And every one of you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your background is. I don't care about your age, the color of your skin, your gender. None of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters. Doesn't matter where you grew up. Doesn't matter, what your education, if you dropped out of college or high school. None of that stuff matters. Your background doesn't matter. Debbie, you're going to love this because this is Debbie's favorite quote, but your past does not equal your future. Every successful person out there, every person that you look at and says, man, they're successful, they're wealthy, they're rich, they're famous, I guarantee you, many of those individuals started out worse than you are right now. Do you know how many successful people were once homeless? Steve Harvey was homeless twice. Steve Harvey, one of my favorite guys of all time. One of my favorite quotes, when God blesses you, he blesses you to be a blessing to others, by Steve Harvey. He was homeless twice. Most of you have never been homeless. So there are many wealthy and successful people out there that started out way worse than you are right now. And now look at them. So that should tell you right there that your past does not equal your future. If they can do it, you can do it. God does not make junk. You just have to make a decision. You have to start thinking bigger, setting bigger goals, dreaming bigger. I guarantee you, if you're somebody that's always made $30,000 a year, $40,000, maybe the most you've ever made in a year is $50,000 a year. And if you made a decision in your head, say, you know what, I am worth a hell of a lot more than 30, 40, 50 grand a year. And you made a decision that you're not going to settle for anything less than 6 figures a year, $100,000 a year. If you kind of got just that burn in your gut, like almost a little bit upset, like, man, never, ever again am I going to settle for less than $100,000 a year. I'm worth at least $100,000 a year. I'm telling you right now, the minute you made that decision, you would feel something different within inside you. You literally would feel a shift inside you. You would feel something different. And the minute you make up your mind and make that decision, you'd be amazed what God and the universe brings into your reality to help you accomplish that, to help you meet that goal, that objective, and start making six figures and more a year. You just have to make up your mind. God's just waiting for you to make a decision and finally say enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to start thinking bigger and dreaming bigger because I guarantee you, every single one of you have way more potential than you're tapping into. Way more potential than you're tapping into. It all starts right here. Okay, so we're going to talk more about this week because this is a big deal. And I'm going to share with you some tips and some ideas and some strategies on how to shift this and to start thinking and dreaming bigger and accomplishing bigger things in your life. The worst thing you can do is go through life settling and being like everybody else. Don't be like everybody else. Everybody else out there is given up, or most people have given up. They just go through life doing the bare minimum. You can see it in their health. You can see it in their job. You can see it in their finances. They just go through life doing the bare minimum, just enough to get by. And it shows up in their life. But there are those few individuals that go the extra mile. They think bigger. They take bigger action. They do bigger things. They take bigger risks. And it also shows up. And they're up here when most people are down here. Don't be like most people. Stop settling. Don't get content. You have way, way more potential than you realize. God does not make junk. You are literal royalty. You come from royalty of the Most High. We are all sons and daughters of our Father in heaven. That right there should inspire something within you to tell you that, you know what? You have way more potential than you realize. So make sure you tune in this week because we're going to talk more about this. All right, let's check our comments here real quick and we're going to wrap up. Sarah, hello. Thank you for your message and so good to see you on here as always. Thank you. Larry, appreciate that, brother. Thank you. I'm going to talk more about that. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about why that is. So appreciate your message, brother. Always good to see you on here. Bobby. I know a lot of you are wondering, my attire. So I'm going to talk more about that. So Bobby, I love your message, man. That is awesome. And thank you for the compliment. Appreciate you, brother. Always good to see you on here. Debbie, every time I say that, man, I'm like, Debbie's going to love this. She's going to love it. So thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Debbie, thank you so much for your wonderful compliments and your kind words. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Always good to see you. Marcus. That's it. I love it, brother. Marcus, thank you for your message. Great, great comment. Thank you, brother. Always good to see you on here. That's awesome, Debbie. I love it. Thank you. So good to hear that. Oh, you are so awesome. Marcus, that's hilarious. Love your message, brother. Thank you. Sarah, thank you. My pleasure. Glad you loved it. Thank you so much for your comment. Giovanni. There you go. I love it, man. Stay positive, brother. I feel the same way, man. I feel like you're right there. Ah, Giovanni, you're awesome, man. Love your message and so good to see you on here as always. Karen, thank you, Karen. Appreciate your message. So good to see you on here. Giovanni, my pleasure. You're welcome, brother. So glad to have you on here as always. Katie. Katie, I love your jokes. You are hilarious. Thank you so much. I'm going to have to remember that one. Oh, Terry. Oh, man. Seriously, Terry, that is a huge compliment. Holy cow, man. That's probably the biggest compliment I've ever got. Thank you, brother. Man, love and appreciate you, Terry. And thank you so much for your kind words. Always good to see you on here. Lionel, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. So I know a lot of you commented on my get up here, my suit. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about this over the next few days. We'll talk more about this on one of the webinars and why. So thank you all for your wonderful compliments, by the way. And thank you so much for all of you willing to come out and share your messages, your kind words, and just love it when you guys get engaged and are willing to come out and share. So thank you very much. And thank you all for being on here today. Like I always say, if you do the things today that most people won't, tomorrow you will have the life that most people can't. I promise you guys, I don't just say that. That's not just theory. It's absolutely true. If you do the things today that most people won't, tomorrow you will have the life that most people can't. Okay, that's a fact. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Don't go out there and just have a great day. Make it your best day ever. It's your choice. We'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. God bless, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.